Hey friendos, it's DW. In this video, I'm going to be going through all my Game Jam prep steps and kind of give you a working example on myself of what I'm doing to get myself all prepped up for the upcoming Game Jam. So the next one is Ludum Dare 47, and it starts in 16 days as of this recording. And so I'm going to go through a kind of a self-evaluation process after playing all my games, review the player feedback, and then identify my learning objectives and actual Game Jam goals for Ludum Dare and ideally for GitHub Game Off as well. And so with that, I'm going to get into it. But before that, if you want to play the games, rather than play them on this video and kind of for the sake of time, I'm just going to leave the links below. And if you want to play them and leave me some feedback, I would really appreciate it, especially if you can identify some things that I'm doing well at, but you know, how I can just take that little step forward, that little low-hanging fruit step forward to make myself that much better at game development. And so with that, now I'm going to start doing things. So let's do this. My game portfolio consists of 3 games: Vagabond Game, Car Scientist, and Little Shop of Wall Street. Vagabond Game is a prototype game that I created when I was streaming over on Mixer when that was still a thing. It was really just a top-down prototype to work around with what game development even was and try to make a RPG-ish style narrative-driven game. Next up, we have Car Scientist, my GitHub Game Off submission for 2019. Car Scientist is a clear evolution of Vagabond Game over to an actual completed title, although it's lacking in a lot of different features, more specifically around the sound and animation department. Even Vagabond Game had basic animation. And last but not least, we have my Ludum Dare 46 submission, Little Shop of Wall Street. Little Shop was an idea that Darcy Lucier and I came up with for Ludum Dare 46 and the Peg Jam, which is our local game jam here in Winnipeg. The idea was to do a mashup between the theme, which was Keep It Alive, with the Wall Street Kid, an NES game both he and I were familiar with, about trading stocks and kind of building up a lifestyle. Overall, I think the project turned out all right, although it was lacking its core feature, which was the ability to buy and sell stocks. So the game you can see now is actually one that I completed post-jam with that feature in play. So now that I've played all my old games, the thing that I think is missing is that they're not complete experiences. They are great starts at games, they are great little prototypes, but they're not complete game experiences, even if they are on a microscopic level. What's missing is the bit of immersion, right? There's a lot of moving around on the screen, and there's a lot of dialogue a lot of the time, but there isn't any music, there isn't any sound, there isn't any animation. Those are pretty critical components to any game, and I think that's the takeaway I had. It's a thing that I also know, as an internal monologue moment, that I avoid because I'm very uncomfortable with that. I have written a song for Little Shop. I wrote one during the Game Jam, just didn't get time to bring it in because I don't really know how to bring in music into a game, but I think I can. Same with animation. I'm just not that comfortable with it, so I avoided it. And then ultimately, although the game was a success, I think that it was really lacking in that department. I think it could have done a lot better had I provided some level of immersion or deeper immersion with some basic animations and sound, even just sound effects, not even necessarily a complete new song. As for player feedback, you know, this was really easy. The Ludum Dare feedback, especially from, like, say, Ludum Dare 46 with Little Shop, it was pretty consistent that people said the lack of sound was what was missing. You know, there were some good comments in there about what should be added. And, you know, if you think about it, just the idea that hearing a chomp, chomp, chomp sound, or even just a whimpering or a sad crying noise when you lose a life or lose something like that, would have added so much more to that game. And it would have actually enhanced the writing and enhanced stuff. Because the other thing that the players noted was that the writing was good, which I took as a huge compliment, a huge bit of feedback. And I actually ranked higher on the humor aspect in Ludum Dare, which was amazing. So when I take my immersion feedback from my self-eval and my player feedback, which is saying you're lacking in sound and animation, you know, it's kind of an obvious thing here where I need to step out of my comfort zone as a developer and get more into the art and music and sound side of video games. And my video games will improve immensely by just doing that. They might not be the best games in the world, but they will be better. And ultimately, my Game Jam submissions will likely be better. Hopefully. All right, so with respect to the learning objectives, it's kind of obvious. The two that kind of line up really well with my feedback and the player feedback are the art and sound pieces need improvement. More specifically, art and animation. I need to make my games more immersive, and sound and animation, something visual and something audible, makes the most sense. They are lacking in all of my games. There's very little animation at all in any of them, and there's no sound. And that breaks that immersion. Although that I'm getting some feedback on the dialogue, which is good. I'm going to lean on that strength. I need to improve those. So I need to make sure I really focus in my learning time on sound and animation in Godot. So that's what I'm going to probably focus on for the next couple of weeks while I get ready for Ludum Dare. As for Game Jam goals, I really just have one goal. I mean, other than the obvious one, which is, rank higher. I actually just want to get a small microscopic game out the door with all of those components. So with art and animation, sound and maybe a bit of music, actual gameplay, a little bit of narrative, and then something that reflects the theme. But those major components of the sound and art and narrative and gameplay, like all four of those woven together to create a very minimal but complete game experience. The reason I have to really focus this down onto a microscopic level is, although the Game Jam is a 3-day Game Jam, because of my real life commitments in my real life, I have a job on Monday, so that day's a write-off. So it means I need to submit by Sunday night, and I've got kids in a real life during the day on every day. So after everyone goes to bed, I kind of start working, and that's not going to change for Ludum Dare. I might free up a little bit of time or stay up a little bit later, but it ends up being about 4 hours a night. So I got 12 hours to go from start to finish on Ludum Dare 47. But that's kind of my goal, is to get a complete gaming experience done in 12 hours, something that's a science experiment, no more, no less. And I think that might be doable if I do a little bit of warming up with the animation and the sound design stuff. And with that, I'm going to call it a wrap. So if you got any feedback, or you thought that I missed something that was obvious to you in my games after playing them, drop it in the comment section down below if you haven't dropped it over on the itch.io page individually. For those of you that want to play my games and leave me some feedback, or not just want to play them, links are in the description below, so take a look at those. And like I said, any low-hanging fruit you see in terms of improvement, feel free to drop me a line, because I'd really appreciate it. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Have a pleasant day and or evening, and take care.